What is an Ayurvedic doctor?
So, for that, we'll have to first answer what Ayurveda is because there's so many types of Ayurvedic doctors. There's your general practitioner Ayurvedic doctor for everything. So, Ayurveda is the science of life. So, literally, Ayurveda is a vast study. Everything from gynecology to general health to nutrition to social conduct to fertility to childcare, anything that has to do with human life, Ayurveda covers it.
Oh, wow.
Prevention, treatment, sustenance, all of it, longevity. So there could be many types of Ayurvedic doctors. Mostly you'll find herbal practitioners, and then you might find nutrition Ayurvedic doctors. The herbal practitioners will focus on enhancing your well-being or treating diseases using herbs. And then there are some, just who give you dietary and lifestyle advice, and some do all. What I do is I started off that way. I started off as a general Ayurvedic doctor, but I do something a little bit differently. And we can get into that. But really, so an Ayurvedic doctor could be all of these things and can help you to reclaim your health, stay healthy, conceive children, do whatever you like.
Okay, so I saw a doctor once in California, and his whole practice, it was actually very interesting because you go in and I came in and I was like, I have this ailment. And he was, and I don't know if he was Ayurvedic or not, but I'm wondering if this is a similar thing. His practice was such that before even getting into the ailment, he wanted to know about my life in stuff that I could not relate and connect to my ailment in literal terms. But then after talking to him for a while, he was like, well, here's how they connect and here's how they interact. And the way you're describing Ayurvedic doctors, the fact that they're even dealing with social interactions with people. And I'm thinking that does not mean germs. You're not talking specifically about, right? It's like your temperament amongst your fellow man plays some role in your overall well-being.
Yeah, mental health. Yes.
That's really interesting. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so it is everything.
It is everything, but mostly I would say 90% today, the kind of doctors you'll find are either like your general wellness doctors, or there are people who will help you to treat conditions and diseases. And there's also a big aspect of it which has to do with gynecology and everything
Okay.
gynecology. But most doctors that you'll find, especially here in the West, are basically general wellness, and they can help you with treatment of, helping you to heal certain conditions and diseases.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was what you did. And now you are branching out. You are doing more. You are doing something else.
Yes. So my main focus is on working with women. I also work with men, primarily women, but also because we're at this very interesting time in history where women are really stepping up to take charge of their health. Earlier health was indigenous wisdom. It was passed on from mother to grandmother. And now women are, because we've all become very intellectual, and women are stepping up and they're questioning what is it that we're carrying in our body, in our genetic frameworks, in generational trauma, in the way we live. And where we've come is creating disease. I mean, we all know chronic conditions are at their all-time highest and they continue to rise. So, and women are really stepping up to health. So I exclusively work with women to kind of trace back into everything that brought them here and the undoing of it all. So I work in the mental wellness space as well as physical wellness, diet, lifestyle, exercise. So that's all a big part with this whole idea of creating sustainable health, of coming to sustainable health first, of, undoing what you've done and then creating a sustainable way for you to live from this point onwards.
That's amazing. I have four daughters and a
Mm,
wife and a granddaughter, and I just got a grandson, which I'm very excited about. But having spent
good.
so much time with girls, I'm a little bit like he's an alien. I don't quite know what to do with a little boy yet. I'm hoping that when he grows, he's 4 months old. So
Adore.
yeah, but I have for sure noticed, other than the first menstrual cycle, which I've dealt with now 4 times, that was something that okay, now we have a doctor to go and see. But to be honest with you, there's stuff with women are just so much more complicated than men, and stuff that kind of works easily for men that's super
Mhm.
mainstream. We just don't have go-to solutions, and it's also my experience being a man that I can just relate to all the things I've done, whether I want to build muscle, whether I want to lose weight, if I've been sick, here's what I did. It's all very simple, but it's also very mainstream. But then you get into the area of women, and it just to me seems more complicated, but it also doesn't seem super mainstream. Like perimenopause, I didn't even know what that was until my wife started to experience perimenopause. And then I was like, wait a sec, why are we not talking? And I know that might seem super stupid or naive, but it's not. It's not the most openly talked about thing. Half the people in the world are going to go through something called the change of life, where their bodies go haywire for a time and then their bodies are completely different. And why is that not more talked about? So I'm really excited that you work specifically with women. I'm very interested in women because I'm surrounded by them and I
Mm.
don't know much about them. So that's
Yeah,
amazing.
right. And you said that very correctly because these are the times where women and men have, we're trying to adopt similar roles, and that's fine. But sometimes there's a disconnect in identifying our natural and unique strengths, which could differ from person to person. But the truth is, right, when we all look back at our childhoods, and you see that even the mood of a mother can affect the entire family. So I always say when a woman heals, the whole family heals. The whole family heals. The community heals. Community heals. The world heals. But it needs to start as women. And you're right, women are very complex because our bodies have to change 3 times a month before we get our period. You first get ready to possibly conceive. Then your body all warms up and is ready and juicy in case you conceive. And then it goes either you conceive, which these days is more rare, or you don't. And then you have a menstrual cycle. And this makes us adaptable because we're constantly adjusting, but it also makes us volatile, and they both come from the same place. So we have like multiple seasons within a month's time, and that also again adds to the complexity. Plus, I always say that look, mothers are nurses. We nurse, right? So we're nurses, and you have to stay awake. Like our senses, like men can hear, they have a smaller hearing range than women do. Women have a larger hearing range. Our senses are more sensitive, like scientifically, to stimulus around us. And that's because we have to stay always aware of, like, is there a crying baby? Who needs what? And just we have evolved to a place where we still haven't caught up on this whole idea of contraception and having less children. So women traditionally had so much that they had to do. What has happened now that as a result of having less children and being able to make greater life choices, we have the opportunity to take more masculine roles as well, what was traditionally considered masculine. So which means we're doing more and we're more in our masculine. And we're still adjusting, like our biology is still adjusting to that reality, which requires more testosterone, which requires more warmth, more heat. And I think we found ourselves at this really special time where we don't want that level of masculine energy to damage our feminine energy. So we still want to be able to preserve it. And that's the fertility issues that people actually experience these days. So we want to be able to preserve it, and we still want to be able to live the full life and make all the choices that we want to make, and it's all possible. And really, that's how I work with women. I work with women to undo everything that they need to so that they can live the life that they want to live. And yeah, our body is everything from how we eat to how our weight shifts over our cycles. Everything is very different from a man's.
Yeah, I mean, just the way you explain that, because if I had been asked, like, as you said that, I totally recognized that aspect in my life around the women I'm in around. But like prior to this conversation, I would have just said, no, there's the block of time where they have their period and they're quite obviously going through something. And then there's the other time, but that's not even true because it is far more nuanced than that. And even from kid to kid, I'll know one kid is like has a much harder time of it. And it's like the week out of it and the week prior are really brutal and stuff is happening. But guys are just kind of like, there's no change. Like if we sleep, maybe we have some change. If we eat poorly, maybe we have some change. If we're undernourished, maybe we have some change. But this is not massive, radical internal changes happening with us. It just requires a little more rest or a little more nutrition. And what you're talking about are actual physiological changes. That's got to be hard to be presented with modernity and try to squeeze into the box that you find yourself in as women. It's tough.
It is absolutely tough, but also women are more tuned into their trauma and men have more deep-seated trauma. So because of the volatility and the ebb and flow of our juices in our body, we become more emotional and we can tap into trauma. As a result, we can heal our trauma. For men, historically, the trauma has always been deep-seated, right? Because there's a big buffer in that emotional range, and it's always cushioned. And that's why men, have very often you'll see, and now things are changing, right? When it comes to alcohol, when it comes to other kinds of addictions, men would take to it earlier because they don't know how to access their trauma. So they have a higher need of coping mechanism. So I think men and women have their different challenges in different areas. And I think for man, like when he experiences that level of trauma or when it emerges in his life, for a man, it can be very severe. And it can be very hard to tap into and then to undo. So, which is again very great because this time also offers an opportunity for men to actually tap because we're talking more and more about it, and men are resuming some of more and they're becoming gentler in their roles. And I think that's allowing them to access their trauma. So it's a very special time in history. And the other thing that you said, which is very interesting, is that, you may have two daughters and they both experience this whole cycle differently. And that taps into a big part of Ayurveda, which is bio-individuality. I would say it's the first science to actually talk about bio-individuality. Like people can have three distinct types of body functions. There are people whose bodies are a little bit more focused on, that are highly anabolic, which means like they're building easily, building more tissue, building more flesh. They're a little bit slower, a little bit sluggish. Or bodies that focus more on like metabolic functions. These could be really hot bodies that can probably get easily inflamed, be more sensitive to the sun, get more acidity, all like heat-related symptoms. And then there are people whose bodies are naturally more catabolic and they feel very, very depleted. So we have bio-individuality as well, and Ayurveda identifies that. And that's probably one of the first things an Ayurvedic doctor will do of any sort is try and understand your personal body type. So, and then once you understand that, it becomes so easy to understand why a person's menstrual cycle, why a person's fertility, why a person's moods, whether it's a boy or a girl, a man or a woman, why can they be different from each other? And then how to support each type.